Welcome to another Adobe Animate tutorial for beginners. In this video, I'm going to show you 4 different ways to create and use guides in order to animate objects along a controlled path. Alright, so to show you the first method using the pen tool, I'm going to bring in a background that I made of a roller coaster, and the roller coaster is going to act as our path that we're going to follow. So make sure you're on layer 1 with just a blank stage, blank canvas. Click on the first keyframe, the blank keyframe here, and go File, and then Import to Stage. Now I'm going to bring in this background. I'm going to show you in a second how I made it. So I'm going to double click. It comes in. It's bigger than my stage. So if yours is smaller than your stage and you just go to your free transform tool and resize it, you can match it up easy. If it's bigger, then I would suggest dragging your pivot point right to the corner, and then you can go to this opposite corner and then just size it up to match your stage. So all I did to make this was I went to Google and searched cartoon roller coaster PNG, and I came across this one right here. So I clicked on it, but it wasn't a high enough resolution. So then I clicked around some more, like in the other kind of ones down here, until I found this one. So roller coaster ride, a blue silhouette drawing free image. So this one was really good. It was a high resolution and really good quality and a PNG. And then all I did was I brought it into Photoshop and created this. So obviously I found another kind of sunset cartoon background and plunked it in behind it underneath right here. But as for the silhouette here, if I disable the layer mask and eliminate this, this is what it originally looked like as a PNG. So I didn't realize there was all these, like the white in there that I wanted to get rid of. I mean, you can leave it, but it kind of ruins the silhouette kind of feel of it. So I'm actually just going to delete this layer mask right now. And all I did was I went up to select color range and I selected on the white and then clicked OK. And then I went select inverse. So I selected now everything but the white. And then I went down here and put a mask on it right here, mask. And so that got rid of all the white. And then all I had to do is on the mask. So on a mask, a black brush becomes an eraser. So I just resized, made the hardness up, and I just went in and just zoomed in and erased all these guys out of there. Once I got all the roller coaster people out of there, then I just went over and I double clicked to the right over here of my layer, which brings up the layer style menu, and then I just put on a color overlay. So I'm going to cancel because I'm going to put mine back right here and double click. So on the color overlay, all that I did was I picked a kind of a dark purple instead of a black, because this was kind of a pinky purple over here. So kind of made it feel like it was one, and that was it. Then I just went and saved it as a JPEG instead. So down, JPEG, and save. So once you have your background ready to go and imported to the stage, then I would suggest naming it. So I'm going to go here and go roller coaster background. Next, we're going to add a new layer, and we're going to call it cart, and just go over to the blank keyframe here. And then we're just going to use our shape tools to make our own little cart. So I'm going to zoom in a bit and start with a rectangle. I'm going to make sure my fill color is the same as this silhouette color, whatever you picked here. And same with my stroke. I'm going to make sure it's the same. And I'm just going to make a cart like this. Maybe I might like tweak it a little bit, and then I'll just use my circles here to make one little tire right there, one little wheel, another one there, and then I'll just put another circle up here to represent the head of the person that's in the cart. Okay, so once you're done, make sure you're on that keyframe so it looks like this, and then just go modify and convert to symbol. And I would just name this cart as well, and I'm going to make it a graphic and click OK. I would take your time to make a better cart than I made, but if you don't want to make one, then just go to Google and search like cartoon roller coaster cart, and you can find some right there. Make sure it's PNG though as well. All right, so now we're ready to actually animate. So the first thing we're going to do is resize this. So go to your free transform tool, and actually, you know what, move your pivot point right down to the bottom right there, kind of between the two wheels, maybe even a little bit over like that. And then we're going to resize. So just go to the corner. I'm going to hold Shift and scale this down to be a reasonable size. And then bring it over to the start here and rotate it so it's kind of along the proper path here. If you need to, obviously Control+ to zoom in, and you can get a much more fine-tuned rotation to line these up. So I'm going to put it on the track like that. Now we're ready to actually make the path that it's going to follow. So to do that, we're going to add a new layer. So right here again, and call this one, call it pen guide. So we know it's the pen tool guide. And your pen tool looks like this. If you don't see it, then click on these three little dots and it'll be right there. So you can select it and it'll add it to your, you can drag it like this, like drag it and add it into your tools over here. Okay. So with the pen tool, you're going to click, I'm going to zoom in again. It's kind of a tough tool to use if you've never used it before. But all you do is you're going to click where you want the path to start. So I'm going to click right there, make a little dot. And then I'm going to go kind of part way up and I'm going to click and hold. And when you drag that out, you see these little handlebars here. You're going to try and curve this to kind of match the curve of the roller coaster thing right here. Okay, so I'm going to scroll up. I'm going to click again up here and hold. I'm going to kind of curve it there. Make sure that you click and drag out like that so it curves, right? Don't go too far. Click, drag out. So I'm trying to make this curve so it matches. Then I'm going to click down here because it's a big stretch. I can click and just kind of curve it. It's really important to try and keep the curve as opposed to being exactly perfect. The only thing I'd be really aware of is if you make one and you go too far over and you're kind of creating some sort of weird path, and then you go to the next one, it's going to be really hard to fix it. You're going to create some weird things. If you run into that, just go Control Z to go back to the last point that you were at and make a smaller kind of chunk. So I'm going to go make a little smaller chunk to kind of straighten it out. And then I can continue here to make my bigger curves again to get what I want. At the very end, just kind of click out into no man's land out here. All right, so once you've made your path, then all we have to do is right click on pen guide here and turn it into a guide. So we click on guide, and you can see it turns into this, I don't know, what's that, a hammer or something there. And then you're gonna take the cart and click it and just drag it underneath. So it kind of indents right here, and you can see the symbol beside pen guide changes because now it's an actual guide that the cart is going to follow. So let's go over to about 6 seconds. Click and drag down, just click, hold it, drag down to select all three. And then you're gonna add a keyframe right here, insert keyframe. And you can see that nothing has happened yet because we have to go onto the cart layer, select anywhere along here, right click, and you're gonna go up to create classic tween. So that just tweens just the cart layer. And then we're gonna go to the very end here, go to your selection tool, and then just click on it and drag it to the end. And you'll see that there's this little circle that comes up around the bottom of it. And that will, once you get it close to the guideline, it'll suction cup to that line. That's what you want. So now when we go back along here, you can see that it traces along that path. If it doesn't, then just check both keyframes at the start and at the end and make sure that little circle thing is lined up with the path. So right on the guideline. At this point, you'll obviously notice that it doesn't follow the path, right? It just stays in the same direction. So all we have to do is click on here in between the keyframes and go over to tweening. So click down if you don't see it like this, and you're gonna go orient to path. So if we click orient to path, you'll see at the start we have it lined up, but when we play it, you can see that it's gonna start going off a little bit. So if yours starts going off, that's okay. Then just go to the very end one, and we got to make sure that on our free transform tool here, zoom in again, Control plus, and rotate this guy so it lines up nicely as well. Now, when we zoom back out and play it again, we'll see that it follows the path and stays oriented facing the front the whole time. If that's all you need to do for your animation is just have it follow the path at the same speed, then you're done. That's all you need to do. But for a roller coaster here, the issue is that it does not travel the same speed going up here as it is down here and whatever. So I'm going to show you a few things that you can do to kind of mess with this as well. So to change the speed. So up at the very top, I'm going to line it up there, and I'm just going to click and insert a keyframe right there. And then right here, I'm going to click, hold, and drag out so I have 3 here. and I'm just going to go F5. So that's just going to add frames in, and I'm just going to add a whole bunch, maybe like 3-4 seconds worth before it gets to the peak up there. So now when we watch it, you can see at the start here, it takes a long time to climb, and then it'll start going the same speed after that. So that's kind of step one. I'm going to do that at each of the peaks here. So I'm going to also do that right here. I'm going to click and then insert keyframe right there. This time I'm not going to add any frames though, because it's going to be going fast here. I just wanted to slow just slightly. I'm going to do that a different way. But over here, I'm going to do the same thing. Click and I'm going to go back one. Click right there and add a keyframe. Now, the important thing is that this one looks pretty good right here, but it shouldn't just go slow and then just abruptly just start going fast. We want to click, and between these two right here, between this keyframe and this one, you want to click and go over to Tweening, Effect, and on Classic Ease, switch it to Ease In and Out. And I think the best one right here is probably Sine right here. So double click and then do the same thing in between these two keyframes. So if you click and then go to Classic Ease, switch it to Ease In and Out and select Sine. Now what happens is that's going to kind of be still slow here. It's going to speed up, then it's going to slow a bit right there, and then it's going to speed up again. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do up here. It's going to be a little bit different. It kind of slows there already. And then on this side, we're just going to go to here and we're going to add just an ease in, and I think a circ is probably a good one here. So double click, and now if we watch it, we have the slow climb at the start. Then we have it kind of, speed up, slow down a bit, and then go up to the top, slow down a bit, and then, speed up at the end to go away. So the key to adding the eases on this is just to make sure that it's not so abrupt. So up here, we just eased it in a little bit, and then eased it out. Then we eased it in, and then eased it out, and then eased it back in to really go fast at the very, very end. And that's it for the roller coaster. But I'm going to show you the second way using the pencil on this animation as well. So click over here and add a new layer again, but this time make sure if it shows up underneath this guide, drag it above so it's at the top, or you can drag it underneath cart on its own thing. Make sure it's not indented like this, that it's over like that, and go here, and you're just going to double click on that and call this one butterfly. And all that I have there, I'm going to go back to the very start here, click on this blank keyframe, and I'm going to go File, Import, Import to Stage, and I've just saved this silhouette butterfly right here, again a PNG, so double click, and that'll bring that one in. I'm just going to hold Shift and scale this guy down to be like that big, still pretty big, but that's okay. And I'm just going to bring it over here for now. Then I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to call this one, double click, I'm going to call this one Pencil Guide, and we're going to use the pencil to make a guide on this one, obviously. So this is your pencil tool right here. And the big thing here is that you don't want to create like jaggedy edges. So see, if you see anything like this, so there's kind of two of them, like something like this and like this, then don't keep that guide. Just go Control Z to get rid of it. You don't want to keep it. And you probably want to make sure over here that you're not on straighten, that you're on smooth. Under Tool, make sure you're picked on smooth. And I think the best way to make this is to just be consistent with your path and draw it pretty quick. So I'm just going to kind of go boom like that, and just do like a quick double check to see. I don't think I see any little hitches in this path right now. So that's pretty good. And we're going to do the same thing as last time. So right click on Pencil Guide, turn it into a guide, then go over to Butterfly, indent it underneath that one. And then we're just going to kind of go over to this tool again, our free transform, and you're going to try and latch it on to that guide. So I'm going to latch, I think that's latched on there. Now, sometimes it's hard to see if it actually suction cups to the line. So you should probably zoom in and you can get a better look at it connecting right to the start right there. So I think that one's good. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to go to the end of my butterfly layer here. Click on the last frame and then add a keyframe right there. And then I'm just going to take the butterfly and drag it. I'm going to stay zoomed in here. Just drag it to the other side, way over here, and attach it to the end right there. And then in between here, I'm going to click somewhere along the butterfly layer between the two keyframes, right click and create a classic tween. And now when we go back, you can see that the butterfly follows that path. And if we zoom out, we can see that it follows the entire path along there. But similar to the cart, we also need to make sure we're clicked in between the two keyframes right on this classic tween part. And you want to go right here, orient to path, and go to the very first keyframe. And you want to go to your free transform tool, go to the corner and spin it so it's facing the proper way. And then go to the very end and do the exact same thing. So go to the corner and spin it so it's flying properly in the right direction. The one thing you're going to notice though is that it looks kind of stupid because it's not flapping its wings, right? It's just kind of gliding through the sky. So it's an easy trick to make it flap its wings, right? You can do it more complicated, but a very, very simple way is just to double click on the butterfly, and that'll open up a new timeline over here that's just for the butterfly. It's like a sequence within a sequence. And I would say go to about 15, 16, somewhere around here, and add a keyframe. Then right click and classic tween it, and then somewhere in the middle around 8, insert another keyframe right there. And on that keyframe, so at the first keyframe and the last keyframe, the wings are going to be expanded, but this middle one right here, you're just going to come in here and you're just going to crunch it down kind of like that. And then now if you click this little arrow to go back to the original one, you'll see that the butterfly still follows the path, but that action of flapping the wings we've made just keeps looping over and over and over every 16 frames. If you want to preview it without the paths, then just go up to Control and then down to Test Movie and select In Animate. And that'll bring up its own little thing right here, and you can see the animation play out on a bigger screen right there. Okay, so as you can see, to show you the other two ways of animating on a path, I'm going to use a new project. So for this one, I just have the stars in the background, I have the sun, and then the earth right here. And I'm just going to make the earth go around the sun using a shape path. So to do that, we have to add a new layer first, and I call this Shape Guide. And on that one, I'm going to click on the blank keyframe, and I'm going to use my oval here to make the shape. Just make sure that you're over here, you're clicked on Tool under Properties, and you want to click on Fill and have No Fill, this white box with a red line through it. And your stroke can be any color. I'm just going to put it to black and keep it size 1. And then all I'm going to do is click to make the path. So I'm going to not make it a circle. I'm going to make it kind of an ellipse shape like this. And I think that's good about right there. And just like we did before, you're going to go to that shape guide layer, right click, turn it into a guide, and then take the earth and indent it underneath. Then on the earth, we're going to go to our free transform tool, and we're going to try and plunk it so that dot suction cups to the line once again. And for this one, I'm just going to start kind of exactly on the side so that I have a reference point. This is the clearest kind of reference point of moving around this shape. Then I'm going to go down to about 4 seconds, click, drag down, and insert keyframes all down there. Then I'm going to click between the two keyframes on the earth layer, right click, and create a classic tween. Now we are ready to move the earth. One thing you'll notice though is if you go to the end and you try and move this to the other side. So let's go over to right there. Let's assume that a suction cups to it. You'll see that it'll take the shortest path. So I'm not going to move this all the way at the end right here. I'm going to move this just to the opposite side right there. Actually, you know what? I'm going to move it just over here for now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the middle, somewhere around the middle, about 2 seconds. And I'm going to add another keyframe. And that one I'm going to put to the opposite side, but I'm going to force it to pick a side. So I'm going to go just a little bit down here. And you'll notice what that'll do is that I force it to pick this way because I made that path shorter on this side. So now when I watch this, it's going to go to there. There's about halfway, and it's going to slow down. And I don't exactly want that, but now I can go to this keyframe, and the shortest path from here to this way is not going to be here, because if I put this back to the start where we had it right there, then it's just going to bounce back and forth. It's going to go boink and then bounce back here. So I have to be kind of strategic with this, and I'm just going to place it kind of like over here to make the path from here to here shorter than the path from here to here. So I think that I've done that this time. Let's see. Yeah, so now it just continues around. So if we watch it, it goes around there, and then it just keeps going around until it gets almost all the way around. Okay, so once you've done that, then obviously it doesn't stay the same size. So it's following along that path. If we try and click orient to path on this one, then it's going to spin all around like crazy, right? It's going to be spinning, and that would just be nonsense. So that doesn't make sense to do that. So make sure you do not click orient to path on this one. But we're going to scale it. So if this is kind of our regular size, then over here is going to be the same size, or about the same size. So now over here, we're going to add a new keyframe right where it's kind of at the very peak down here at the bottom. So I'm going to click in there and add a keyframe, hold shift. I'm just going to scale this up a bit. So maybe to like there. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the kind of the 3/4 mark over here. When it gets to the top right there, the furthest kind of point away, I'm going to click in here, add a keyframe, and then hold shift. And I'm going to scale this one down so it's a little bit smaller because it's further away. But we have a few adjustments we have to make. So at this middle point, we now want to move this one so it's exactly to the opposite side of here. And then at this 3/4 mark, this one, actually I should probably bring this a little bit back here. And this one is now going to be exactly at the 3/4 mark. You want it to be exactly up there. And then this final one, we can move to be almost back to the start. So as you can see, if we watch it back in a loop, it just cruises around the sun now. Okay, and then the last one that I'm going to show you is we're just going to add a rocket. So I'm going to add a new layer here, one last new layer. I'm going to bring this one right up to the front because it's going to rocket just kind of through here like this. So double click, call it rocket. And we're going to click here and just go File, Import to Stage. And I have a rocket right here. Double click, it shows up. And I'm just going to bring this one over here and shift and scale it down, rotate it so it's kind of facing that way. Then we're going to click down here, right click, and create a motion tween this time. Then go to your final frame down here. Maybe zoom in a bit if you have to make sure you select that last final frame. Grab your rocket, bring it to the end, and you'll see the path will be made like this. Then all we're going to do is create a couple keyframes so that we can curve this. So I'm going to go kind of at the 1/3 mark, put a keyframe, kind of at the 2/3 mark, put another keyframe, and then I'm going to go back to my selection tool and everywhere the rocket is, so I'm going to click back over here, click around where the rocket is. You see when I hover over it, there's that curvy thing there. That's what you want. You want to take this and you just want to bend this path a little bit like that. Then in between here, you want to take this path and bend it so it lines up nice, so it just looks like it continues like that. And then same thing down here, you're going to take this one, bend it so it lines up nice along a nice smooth curvy path. But just like the other times, the rocket needs to be aligned. So let's go to our first keyframe here, go to our free transform tool and rotate this so it's facing along the start of the path. Then let's go to the final one down here and do the same thing, rotate it so it's coming out of the path that way. And now when we click here and we go into under frame, so make sure you clicked on your motion tween anywhere in the middle here and go over to frame and orient to path. Then now you'll see it'll transform everything into these keyframes like this. Go to the start and the rocket should be cruising along that path nicely after that. And that's it. That's 4 different ways to create and use guides in order to animate objects along a controlled path. If you got something out of this video, make sure to drop a like, and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and I'll catch you next time.